Where is the camera? Oh, right here. Is this it? This is what we're looking at? All right.
That's right.
Perfect. Hi. All right. So the only thing scripted here is our names. That's it. Friends, fans, followers, leaders, and true believers. I am here with
Blake Clark.
Blake Clark. He is not only a badass comedian in a lot of movies I loved over the years, also Army. He's also an Army veteran, and I don't know what's going on with the camera. But all right, hi guys in the world. So when did you go in the Army?
I was January 2nd, 1969.
Okay.
And I was drafted and joined to get OCS as an option.
Right.
So I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey on January 2nd, 1960.
Can you use some volume when you get a chance in the headsets? I thought they had this done already. We're good. It's okay, man. So when I can't hear through these goddamn things. So all right. So what year did?
January 2nd, 1969. I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. I did basic training there. Then I went to. It's all different now. Went to basic at Fort Dix, and then advanced individual training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I was trained as a combat engineer, and then I went to infantry officer candidate school for 24 weeks at Fort Benning, Georgia. Graduated 5 November 1969, commissioned as a second lieutenant in the infantry. Then I went back to Fort Dix for 10 months, and then went to Vietnam in September of 1970. Came home in August of 71.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a lot in a little bit of time. It's
2 years, 7 months, 10 days.
So that's crazy. Where was your first deployment site then? Obviously Vietnam, but what part of Vietnam?
Northern I Corps. We were I was with the 5th Division, 1st 11th Infantry, 1st Brigade, 5th Infantry Division. They were MEC. So we had it was a task force configuration. Independent Brigade, Quang Tri City. Quang Tri was our main base camp. We were in Northern I Corps. We operated from the DMZ, Cantien, Qua Viet, Quang Tri areas south of there all the way to the Ashaw Valley and west to Khe Sanh. During the time that I was there, the big operation we had was it's called Lam San 719. They invaded Laos, and we were in quote-unquote support of the ARVN, the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, the South Vietnamese, who were pretty bad soldiers. And they went in there and got the crap kicked out of them, and we covered their withdrawal, and then screwed around for a few more months, and then I came home in August of 1971.
So how did you get into so you obviously got drafted, right?
I was drafted, yeah.
Where's your hometown?
Macon, Georgia.
So so from Macon to making bacon in friggin' Vietnam.
Fort Dix, and then Fort Leonard Wood, then back to Fort Dix, then Vietnam.
Gotcha.
So, but one of my jokes was I was born and raised in Macon, Georgia, and fought in Vietnam. It's like being punished for the same thing twice. I used to have flashbacks in Vietnam. So that's my hometown.
Right. No, at least you get to see a couple more stoplights while you're in Vietnam.
Yes, right.
You know what I mean?
No, we didn't. I don't think I ever saw a stoplight in Vietnam.
Yeah.
We only had two roads, QL1, QL9. QL1 went north along the coast to North Vietnam. I don't know where it went after that. And then QL9 went west to Khe Sanh.
What's QL mean? I'm sure it's not
I
quality
have no
of life.
idea.
Quality of life 1,
right,
quality of life 9.
Sure, right.
Yeah, we just had MSR, main supply routes. So you, as an engineer, did you work with many Seabees or anything like that?
No, I was only a combat engineer for a few weeks.
Okay, yeah, because you went from this school to this school to this school.
Yeah, and then, but they thought it was wise to cross train us.
Right.
So the infantry training was 24 weeks. Now it's I'm not really sure. I actually went back and did a show, not a show, but a commencement speech exercises for graduation, OCS graduation. OCS now is only 12 weeks, but then they have to go through 5 months of infantry training.
Right.
Because it's so much more sophisticated, and the average average infantry guy carries like 30 pounds of batteries.
Yeah, and there's more they add on to everything.
Yeah, right.
It's added on. It's like
all those things. And we didn't have all the sophisticated night vision devices and infrared and laser guided this and that. We just had dumb bombs and dumb soldiers.
well, that's the thing too. Is just like I'm glad that we still train like the old. Well, we don't really do ACAC charts anymore, but we still do like the the compasses and the grid squares and all that other stuff.
Right? Yeah. Really? Do you?
Yeah, because too many people are relying on still. I mean, Lars and Rawls. You know, left dad, right? So, too many people are still at these fucking things, man.
Right,
they want to believe in their.
But still, I mean, we had our fire direction center, the FDC.
Right.
They had a wheel.
Yeah.
So you would call in your azimuth. But we were lucky in Vietnam that the grid azimuth and the magnetic azimuth were less than 1 degree different.
Oh, perfect.
So you didn't have to add or detract the declination angle.
Yeah.
You just shot the azimuth and called it in.
That because it could be up to 15 degrees depending on where you're at.
Yeah, but there it was like 0.235 or something like that. So it was basically grid azimuth and magnetic azimuth was about the same.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was like probably some of the I'd hate to say the best parts of it though. You know what I mean? Like with some of the best parts of being in Vietnam, if there was any.
I served with some of the finest people I've ever known. They were damn fine soldiers. We had a very, very. I mean, all soldiers have a close bond. I think we had an even closer bond because the rest of the world, literally, including our country, hated us.
Right.
And so we kind of bonded together, even more so because, we were the only friends we had other than the USO. That's why I've always done USO stuff, because they were the only friends we had back then.
That's what the reason why I ask that is because it's just like it's hard for a regular. I mean, there's a lot of veterans that listen and watch what we're doing here, and but civilians will never really understand how close you get to somebody else,
especially in combat.
Right, and then you doing the USO stuff, which Drew Carey, maybe some other day. I'm glad you're here though, because I wanted you to be here for like the longest time, and I
think he has a really good excuse. I think
he's legit.
They're taping Price is Right at night,
right,
with celebrities and stuff. So he had to do.
He gets a hall pass this time.
Yes, he does. Yes,
so we get it, Drew.
And he's also a Marine.
Yeah, goddamn Marines,
Yeah.
So they show up whenever they want.
Yeah, right. But they stay until the job's done. Because where I was, I'll say this, by God, where I was in Northern I Corps, we had Dong Ha, Quang Tri, Qua Viet, Can Tien, all of those places. There had been huge battles there with the Marines, and the Marines had kicked the living crap out of the North Viet. I never fought against Viet Cong that I know of. We were always up against the NVA regulars, who were as well supplied as we were. The only thing we had that they didn't was air power, helicopters and jets and stuff. But the Marines had just kicked the living duck snot out of them. So my job when I got there in 1970 wasn't easy, but it was a hell of a lot better than what it would have been if the Marines hadn't been there.
Yeah,
Marines don't screw around.
Well, when there's stuff to do,
right.
They don't screw around.
They do enjoy their time off.
Oh man, there's a big difference between living in Fallujah with Marines and living in Okinawa with Marines.
I'll bet. Fallujah, they had a job to do.
Yeah.
They had In Okinawa, they had a job to do, but it involved, I'm sure, a lot of spirits.
Yeah, right outside Gate 2, BC Street. But we won't talk about the Red Light District or Whisper Alley today. Man, that had to have been something else, though, going from Macon, Georgia to living in Vietnam. And how long did you serve in Vietnam?
11 months.
So 11.
It was almost a year. Actually, it was cool because they sent us to jungle school in Panama,
Okay.
which was a joke.
Not
You can
Panama
imagine.
City, Florida. But you're talking
No,
Panama.
the country.
Panama.
Yeah,
as
where
Steve
the
Simone would
canal
sing.
is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more wildlife there, because in Vietnam we didn't see a whole lot of wildlife because animals are much smarter than humans. They'll get out of a combat zone.
Yeah.
Humans, stick around in a combat zone. Not voluntarily. I was ordered there, but in Panama, man, there was stuff. You see all kind of snakes and reptiles and all howler monkeys, and they had these ants there, man, that would I think they were bullet ants. They called them bullet ants because one bite felt like a bullet.
Right.
And you didn't sleep on the ground there unless you absolutely had to, because there was just a tremendous amount of insects. In Vietnam, one area we were operated out of is called My Loc. They had leeches, so
That's pretty gnarly.
you knew when you went to bed, when you went to sleep at night, you were going to wake up with leeches on you. And
How long would you usually sleep in that?
Well, we usually.
It would really be sleep. It's just kind of like those, like,
you doze.
yeah.
We usually 4 hours off and 2 hours on, and I never had enough guys in my platoon. We usually work platoon independent, where the area would be I don't know, so many square miles. That was the area of operations, the AO, and then Alpha Company, that was my company, would be assigned a section of that, and then they would break up the platoons. First platoon,
Right.
second, I was first platoon leader, so we had an area that we were responsible for, and we one night one morning I woke up, and I had 28 leeches on me.
Jesus.
And I said we'd squirt them with the bug juice, or you touch them with a cigarette, and they'd drop off, because you couldn't pull them off because they had 3 interlocking teeth on each end. So
You're the only person that watched Stand By Me and got PTSD from that movie.
Right, yes. Except they pulled it off. Those type of leeches, I've never seen a leech like that. These had literally 3 interlocking serrated in their saliva was an anticoagulant, and
Right.
also a deadening agent. So you didn't really feel them. You'd brush yourself, and then you'd feel a lump there, and there it is.
Jesus.
And so I said, yeah, there's 28 leeches. They all dropped off and started an agency.
And then, and that's how half the casting agents work now.
Right,
so
yes.
that's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I never had enough men in my platoon where I didn't have to. In fact, I think on my Facebook page, if I could find it, yeah.
And that's one thing I like about what you post. Like every few days, you'll actually post something from there, you know?
That's me actually digging in. So I put that on there so I would have proof that I actually dug a fighting position.
Oh, the one that was, I just X'd out of it, but the one right here.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And so I always pulled perimeter guard, and I think the most men I ever had was 33, and the least I ever had was 11.
Yeah.
So toward the end of this big Laotian operation, I was basically had a squad, not even a reinforced squad, just a squad,
Right.
like 11 guys and me.
You guys get into a lot of firefights and stuff?
I know, I was so lucky. We got into, we'd get into little tiffs here and there, but never anything like what they had at Quezon or the Edrong or Hobo Wood or any of those places where you would be battalion-sized operations.
Oh yeah, or it's
we had a big
crazy.
push during Lam San 719, but we were off kind of on the side. I watched a big battle for a while.
Right.
We were on the side. Our third platoon was upcom to another unit, and our mortars were down with the battalion of the 1st of the 61st, which was a mechanized unit, and there was 101st Airborne guys, and I think third of either the 17th Cav or somebody. It was like a battalion of guys, and they were attacking this ridge line called Ridgeback, and then there was another place called the Rock Pile, which was looked like a big pile of rocks, but it was some sort of volcanic intrusion back in the Neolithic days. And I actually did a one-man assault on the rock pile because there was a squad of NVA up there, and they were calling in artillery on the battalion that was attacking Ridgeback. So they said, we need somebody to go up there. And so my company commander said, hey, you got a lieutenant here that would love to do it. And I'm going, who's he talking about?
What?
Who the hell is he talking about? So I end up in a Loach, a light observation helicopter, with an M60, shooting at the thank you.
Yeah.
Shooting at the squad that was that was securing the FO up there on. So I made a one-man assault on the rock pile. I don't think I hit anybody, but I think I
scared the shit out of them. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I think they stopped.
Yeah, that's one thing too. Like we would see, and still to this day, when I see kids with kites, because that's how they would use them as marking. Like they'd fly a kite, and then that would be like an aiming stake, basically.
Who would?
Like the Iraqis,
really?
Stuff like that. So I mean, still sometimes I'll see kites, and then those like little red laser lights too.
Yeah,
those
Oh yeah, somebody did
what's
that
going
to me
on
Home Improvement. I was walking along the stage.
Yeah.
And they had the light booth and the sound booth and all that was up behind the audience. There's no one in the audience. I was just walking along.
Right.
And all of a sudden I see this red dot and I just hit the floor.
Sometimes it's
yeah.
You can't help it.
They didn't have laser pointers and laser guided stuff in Vietnam, but I immediately knew what it was.
Right.
And, they were going, oh, God, we probably shouldn't have done that to him. Of all the guys on the cast, we picked the guy who's actually been in combat.
Actually, the real guy
been in combat. And
been in country.
Right. So, we were, we had most of the time we always had fire superiority if we had even numbers or even slightly less than them. But they had artillery. We got artillery. We got mortared. We got rocketed.
Right.
It was more sporadic. I was lucky. I was very, very, very lucky in that they would send us in. Can you curse on this thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
You'd send us into the shit. But by the time we got there, it was over. The NVA had moved on or had been neutralized or whatever, or we were going in to support another infantry unit that was in contact, and then we were going to go in and back them up or whatever. So by the time we got there, it's pretty much over.
So
I was lucky.
Yeah.
I fired at them, and they fired at me, but it was never any like big, huge
trench warfare where you're like
guys are dying around you. All
right.
that. No, guys get killed and blown up, but I was very fortunate. I had a mortar round hit right next to me, but it was a dud, didn't go off. And
those are the best.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're sitting there and you hear it coming in. Dunk. And you look at it and I could reach out and touch it, literally. It was that close. It almost hit me. And I jumped up and ran away. Then I realized, I better go back. So put a block of C4, hooked up a electric blasting cap, hooked it to the Claymore wire and backed off and boom, blew it up.
That'd have been fun because you didn't have to worry about EOD showing up for that. You're just like, I'll just take care of it myself.
No, right. No, EOD ain't gonna come out and blow up one mortar round. But EOD, for you guys out there don't know, it's expert ordnance disposal. But we did have, because my unit stood down and came home, so we had to supposedly retrograde all this equipment, tanks and APCs and
Right.
and trucks and all of that. But they ended up just digging a hole, burying them, and then with all of this ammo, we had all these more ammo. we had a huge ammo storage point, and then we had a battalion ammo storage point. So I had to take all the stuff in my battalion. Again, somebody went, "Hey, Lieutenant Clark will do this." What?
Well,
So we had to.
Oh yeah, we got the one.
Yeah, right. Him. That guy, the idiot from Georgia. He'll do it. So I had to take two 5-ton trucks loads of mortar rounds from Quang Tri combat base. It's about 40 or 50 miles of unsecured road down to Camp Eagle, which was the 101st, to give it to them so they could use it. And then, of course, the guy at the ammo storage point, I can't take this. I went, it's a lot. I had the whole list of
Right.
lot number, whatever. It's all this. It's signed by this guy. Oh no! So we had to turn around and drive it all the way back to Quang Tri. And then the guy said, "Hey, there's a EOD blow going out right by Dong Ha." So we drove it all up there, put it all in there. It was a big pile of, 60 tons of explosion. It just blew it up.
It's so much easier to blow things up
Yeah.
than to actually turn it in. Because
Turn it
there's,
in, right.
It's harder to churn. It's harder to churn in rounds
Right.
than it is to actually check them out.
Yes.
So yeah, you
So you just
actually
got in
lucked
fight.
out on that.
We'd have mad minutes.
Yeah, I remember you just see caches go up, and there'd be some really nice guns and stuff in the caches, and it's just like we gotta blow them up. It's
No.
freaking
You
kidding
can't
me?
retrograde them.
No, and you can't everybody goes through your gear 30 times before you come back to the States.
No brass,
So
no ammo.
That's it. Fod walk down, assholes and elbows, guys.
Right,
Get out
yes.
there. So that had been really cool though, being able to watch that stuff blow up.
Yeah, well, I didn't stick around for it. It's an
Come on, let's get
interesting
some
story. We
popcorn.
had all this stuff. We were
Right.
So then they said, no, you can't. Everybody has an ordinance or a rule or a law or whatever. Oh, you can't do that. You got to take. So we had to take the mortar rounds out of the boxes
Right.
and put them individually, making the stack. Couldn't just put a box of three mortar rounds in the wooden box. So you had to take them out and these hand grenades and somebody was I don't know how it happened, but I'm sure I don't know if they even still do it or not. But the hand grenade used to make a pop when you pull the pin and
Right.
the lever would go and the hammer would come over and hit the blast the.
It's pretty. Nothing's really changed. It's pretty much
Right.
the same one.
So you'd hear you could hear the
I think
pop.
we still have the ones
Right.
you guys didn't
Probably.
use. You know,
that we didn't blow up.
Oh, when I came in, we were going to Honduras and all these. I
Yeah.
came in '96, and there's still shit from Vietnam
I'll bet.
that we're still utilizing.
Probably
old
sea
deuce and a
rats.
half. some-
Probably food.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. They had some of those in Puerto Rico that were like
But
old as hell.
somebody, you heard that pop.
Yeah.
And you know what a sympathetic detonation is. People who out there have never been in the service, the sympathetic detonation is this is the way you get rid of stuff. You take like a little bit of C4, you stick a blasting cap in it, you blow off, and then when you blow that up, it sympathetically detonates or simultaneously detonates the charge of the round or whatever that you're trying to dispose of, and it'll blow up. So a sympathetic detonation, chain reaction almost.
Right.
So we heard this pop, and I started running. And I'm thinking, there's 60 tons of stuff here. I ain't going to run. I can't run far enough away from 60 tons of ordnance that's going to blow. So I just stopped. But it turned out to be a smoke grenade. So it went pop.
Right.
And then you heard the shh of the smoke coming out of it. So they, after I finished unloading, the guys and me, finished unloading and taking the mortar rounds out of the boxes, they say, hey, you want to stick around and watch? No. I'm
You
done.
ran after the
Thank you
first
very
one?
much. I've seen enough shit blow up. I don't need to stand around here and watch it. Bye. Because we're out in the middle of this unsecured area.
Right.
So we went back to Quang Tri Combat Base, and then you heard the boom. Looked up. It was actually a mushroom cloud, but it wasn't. It wasn't nuclear. It was just made a big mushroom cloud from all the.
What's that quarry called now? Oh man. Yeah, I had I had some leftovers. I was in a training command, and I still had those smoke grenades.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think nothing of it because it's 4th of July, but I should have because there was no wind. And I'm from Fremont, Ohio. It's a small town in Ohio. I'm on recruiting duty at this point, right? So like, I pull the pin, I throw it down State Street, and it rolls down the bottom of the hill, and you don't really realize how much smoke are in each one of those things. Because it's just like a little bowl in a small town with just gray smoke. And then you'd see a car and like come out at like 15 miles an hour coming out each side.
And there was a really cool scene in Band of Brothers, which I'm sure is based on the truth, where he pulls the pin on a smoke grenade, and he goes, "Go on the smoke." So he throws it, and then he jumps up and starts running. But and everybody's going, "No, wait till the smoke." And it's like 6 seconds sometimes.
Right.
And he was way out in front of everybody by the time the smoke finally started spewing, and then they all jumped up and started attacking. So he was like, 50 yards ahead of everybody.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like early thing. That's like one of the things I think is beautiful and on our side. And it scared the living shit out of me if I saw it from the other side.
Yeah,
it's just like in training, and then actually when you see it happen in bad places, it's just there's just a wall of smoke, and then next thing you know, just
here comes a whole bunch of ghosts looking.
This is insane.
You got to know that it ain't going to be a good thing.
No,
like the marking round. We used to have these things. I don't know if tanks use them or not. Now everything is computerized and laser guided and satellite guided and all that stuff. The M60, the M1 tank has a gyro stabilized gun. The M60 that the 1st and 77th Armored used, they'd have to stop to fire. I mean, they could fire, but the gun would bounce around.
Gotcha.
But on the M1, it's computer controlled gyro stabilized. You aim on that tank. It doesn't matter what the M1 tank's doing. That gun stays locked on that target, so they can fire, while moving.
That's why like that with my beer. No matter what, I can still go around.
You won't spill a drop.
I think that's probably where they got it from. The drunken Navy.
Yes,
they're like,
absolutely.
But yeah.
Hey, can you figure that out how to tank?
Dude,
oh hell yeah, they goddamn right. But so we had sophisticated weaponry for the time,
Right.
But like Starlight scopes, they weighed 20 pounds and didn't work.
Oh yeah, like it's funny too because like a lot of the scopes when I came in, like I said, I came in '96.
Yeah.
And they were heavy and old as shit, and then just the way everything kind of changed over the years, and it's just like, what? This weighs like nothing, and it's just like how crazy like some of these LED like flashlights are.
I know, yeah.
You can pretty much blind a freaking airplane if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And
or give a guy a friggin' an epileptic fit by putting it on flash.
Yeah, because we used to have those big ass flashlights that are like the plastic. You have to like put like 9 million C's or D batteries in.
Right, yeah, now they have a little battery.
Now it's just like, that's it. It's like a fingernail size.
And the thing is only about, 6 inches long, but it has like 450 lumens or whatever they call them.
Yeah, it could have been used for a nightstick back in the day. Now it's like...
Now it says, you couldn't even kill a bug with it, but it'll light up the whole area. Yeah, and we were air mobile. So we had a I never have, and to this day don't understand the difference between mechanized infantry battalion and a cavalry troop. I think the one of the main differences, the cavalry troop had back then, I don't know about now, but back then they had a 155 Sheridan, which was a light skin tank, but it had a gyro stabilized gun back then. the cavalry has that in addition to APCs, and then the M11A1 APC with the mechanized infantry, and then we had a tank unit, a tank battalion. And they had M60 tanks, but we were straight leg air mobile infantry. So I never got to ride too much.
No. So it was just like nonstop patrolling. Like
Yeah.
You get just kind of like how you'd fly into somewhere
Mhm.
like chopper and then
Yes.
it'd drop you off.
Yes.
And how long were you like on doing those patrols?
We usually operated 15 days out and 2 to 3 days back. And so you'd go out, and like I said, we operated platoon independent. So it was
Right.
very rarely was the company all paused up in one company size position.
We're saying platoon, so you got like three or you
There's
get one
3
platoon,
line
so-
platoons and 1 mortar platoon in
Okay.
each company.
Right.
And then we were supposed to have 4 squads, but it was better for command and control. They just used 3 squads. So we had 3
Oh,
squads.
yeah.
And we never used we didn't have a heavy weapons squad. We just, like I took the machine gun. I think the first squad and the third squad had the machine gun. So then we never used the 90 millimeter recoilless rifle, which is like a bazooka, but it's
Right.
a 90 millimeter bazooka, not a 3.5 inch, 3/4 inch. And then they had these things called laws. I don't know if you guys had those. They're light
No,
anti-tank
but I
weapon.
remember-
It would pull apart.
Right.
And thing would pop up.
We have
and
AT4s now, but the law rockets.
but then you
those
fire
were
it, and
the
it's
ones that you
disposable.
back
Yeah,
and
yeah. And then you just throw the thing away.
That's like the AT4s now, the high
Yeah.
explosive anti-tank rocket launchers
Right, yeah.
now, and then they're one use and then they're done. It's the same
Right, yeah.
thing,
That's it.
and they actually have.
I don't know about it in the desert, but in the jungle, you get them wet, they wouldn't fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you pop it over, you go click,
I
click,
didn't know that.
bam. You put it down, you get another one. Give me that one. Then the thing would go off.
Oh shit! Yeah, because the cook-off or
yeah,
whatever.
right, yeah.
I can only imagine.
So,
Oh my god.
yeah, it was interesting. You never knew. Most of the time, the one thing about the M16, I'm sure they've fixed the M. It's an M4 now or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
pretty much
and all that.
modified M16.
Yeah.
Same thing, different back.
They're probably much better, but you had to keep that M16 ultra clean,
Right.
or it would jam.
It's the same thing now. It's just
Oh,
like
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much the same thing. Just make sure you keep it clean all the time.
Yeah.
And there's like you're cleaning that shit like 3-4 times a day
Yes,
in some of
at
these
least.
places because just the maintenance alone, you're
Right.
gonna if not, you're screwed.
Yeah,
You know?
you go maybe fire one round and then the thing jams up. And it was
Well,
the first time that ever, I think, where the bolt, to the M16 was not accessible. It was housed.
Right.
So you couldn't get to. At first you couldn't clear a jam.
Oh wow.
The guys would have to take the weapon and bang the butt on the ground,
So this
try
is-
to clear the weapon. Then they came up with the
Because you get the
M16. that-
shotgun break now, where you can
yeah,
just,
but
like,
you could
but that was
break
before.
it open.
Yeah.
But then they had the charging handle,
Right.
where you could actually take the charging handle and pull the bolt back. But before that, there was no way to
Holy shit.
to clear a jam. And then also, someone told me, this happened before I got there, that when they first started using the M16 in the field, I think it was the Marines who first started using it. They didn't send them 22 caliber cleaning rods, so there was
Right.
no way you got something jammed in
heard
the
that.
barrel. You couldn't, 30 caliber cleaning rod you can't fit it down the barrel.
One of the things was like when they sold that product to us, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's great. It's no matter what, it's going to
Yeah.
be fine. You don't need to clean it ever." And then that's
Yeah.
the story I heard as well, where it's
Right.
just like, and especially an M16, which is really back then, it's a piece of shit, And
Yeah.
it's still not the best rifle in the world. I love it and I'll trust it to
I
because
think-
I know I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
But
The AK-47 you can throw in a
Oh,
mud
yeah.
pile, a mud puddle, leave it there, let it freeze, thaw it out, and it'll fire.
when I was like,
Take an M16, you spit on it, it'll jam.
just say bad words. And
Yeah,
they're like,
right.
I'm too sensitive for this. Come
That's
on.
right.
It'll actually go to HR on you, man. I used to let when I retired, I mean, my second half of my career, I was a platoon commander off and on, or I was an instructor, and I would warn them like at the beginning. I'd like, hey man, you got to clean this shit, and then I wouldn't tell them again. And the reason why is I wanted the rifle to fail while they were in training.
Well,
you know what I mean?
In training,
yeah. So then they're like, "Oh my God!
Right.
Oh, that stuff
You're
I can't believe
dead.
this happened."
You're
like,
dead.
That's what happens.
You're dead.
You know.
Yeah, and that I'm sure it's worse in the desert.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what would be worse, because I did JWTC in Okinawa. I didn't obviously didn't go to Vietnam, but I did a lot of the jungle warfare up there, and then and you have all the crap that's there that gets conked in, and then you're in outside Iraq or Kuwait or these other places,
right.
and it's just like this bubble gum and this funk that just grows in there, and then depending on what camps you're on. I was talking to my buddy Ben about this, because he did a lot of stuff with DevGru and a couple other those guys, and the some bases that people could be on. I mean, it could be almost like talcum powder.
Wow.
That's
and it's,
we'd call it moon dust.
It gets in your butt.
Yeah, it gets.
I was over there just doing shows.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I had literally, I'm not exaggerating, I had sand up my ass.
For a second, I thought you were talking about your rifle butt.
No, my butt.
For the first time, I went to a good, clean place. When somebody said butt, that's a first.
My butt. My butt.
Yeah, swamp asses.
And I really think that I pissed some sand out one time when I was over there, because it got everywhere. It was like you said, it's just so. There was sand, and then there was that, whatever it was, like talcum powder, like you said. It was so. It would be. You'd wake up and you'd have. You have to clear your eyes. It would be in your nose and in your teeth, in between your teeth.
Yeah.
It just got everywhere, and that's not even with that much of a wind.
Right.
Just normal.
When you were doing these were USO shows and stuff like
yeah.
that. So like, how many places did you go with USO?
The first time with Drew and Jeff Ross and Andres Fernandez and Rocky Laporte and Lyle and Kathy, who played on the Drew Carey show. We went to Kuwait, we went to Iraq, and we went to a whole bunch of different places in Iraq, like 12 or 13 different fire bases and forward operating bases, and we went to Army and Marine and Air Force, and I don't think we did the Navy with Drew, although he was a Marine. He should have,
right.
But I don't think we did. But with Robin, when I went with Robin, we went to we went to Kuwait, Iraq, a whole bunch of places in Iraq. We went to Qatar, Dubai. We went to the USS Harry Truman, which was a aircraft carrier, and John Elway was with us.
Oh,
and
nice.
Down on the hangar deck, he could throw a football off the deck.
Right.
Across the, I don't know how far it is, but I couldn't.
That's how I kind of got into doing this. I mean, I've always been a huge comedy fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I loved stand-up my entire life. I mean, I love that Dangerfield HBO special with Kinnison.
Oh, God.
And that was like, that's, stuff I grew up watching. And then it was Robin Williams, Louis Black, Kid Rock, that year's Miss America, and Lance Armstrong. So it's like, it's crazy how Robin put together these hodgepodge of entertainers, not just necessarily comics.
Robin was so great, man. He really did so much for the vet, and never wanted any coverage, never wanted to do it for publicity. So did Letterman. Letterman did it, Leno did it, and you never heard about it because they didn't want it publicized. They didn't want people thinking they were doing it.
It's always after the fact that you're like, what? How did he was here? How did we miss him?
Yeah, right. But Robin would. They literally had to drag him off stage.
Yeah,
because he would stay there till everybody wanted a picture, got one, and he was just the greatest guy. And Elway was just Leanne Tweeden, Elway, me, and Robin.
Oh, cool.
And that was the show. And with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who was Richard Dick Myers, who was a great. He I think he's now the president of Kansas State University.
Oh, cool.
But he was a real soldier's general. I mean, he took. That was another thing that really impressed me, and that was every time I went over there. Well, the first time and second time. I remember one like I don't know, specialist E4 guy wanted his picture taken with Drew.
Right.
So he turns to a brigadier damn general and says, "Would you hold my weapon, sir?" And the general holds his weapon while he has his picture taken with Drew. And I just went, wow.
Yeah.
I said, I was a lieutenant, and I would never ask a general to hold my weapon.
Right.
You know, I would never even speak to a general. But he goes, I'm here for my men.
Right.
And, you know, they were out there on the front with the guys. None of this, you know, commanding from the rear. They were out there in the front where those generals were. And colonels and lieutenant colonels and stuff. I mean, they were REMPs, rear echelon guys. But
yeah.
These guys they were out there with their soldiers.
But they were still out. Yeah, they're still out there getting after it. And that's
yes,
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Man. And I think a lot of that stuff when you see that's the people.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
sure.
what I want to be.
You know,
like.
you'd follow that guy.
Yeah, anywhere.
Because he's out there with you.
Yep. I mean, as silly as it sounds, I remember I remember just watching as a young steelworker, you know, in the Seabees, just watching somebody hop out the truck. It's like, you know, this guy's a chief and he's out here helping finish concrete and stuff like that, and he's actually doing a good job because there are people that fuck everything up. But you know, the guys are actually there. Like
I think that's the difference between not that the guys that were drafted weren't good. They were great.
Right.
I mean, these were as good as soldiers. I won't say better, but they were as good as soldiers as this country's ever produced. But they also had to put up with being hated, ostracized, spit on. I can't tell you how many times I was spit on. Man. We went to Panama to go to jungle school. First of all, when we left, we flew out of Charleston Air Force Base. Our whatever you call it, port of call was Charleston. So we went to the naval base there, and then they bussed us over to the Air Force Base to fly us down to Panama. There were people throwing stuff at the bus. Americans, civilians, throwing stuff at the bus, rocks and dirt and
this
mud.
Is in Panama, you got.
And later got to Panama. Okay. We landed in wherever the hell we landed and had to go to Fort Sherman, the Canal Zone. I think we landed in Panama City and had to drive across the isthmus on a bus.
Right.
They were throwing shit at the bus, which I thought was ridiculous because this is a bus. You can just hose it up, but they're picking this up with their hands.
Yeah, they're walking around with shit on their hands.
They're not hitting us. We're inside the bus. Then I got to
Then they go like this, like it's their war paint.
Yes, right.
Get E. coli in their eye. Fucking idiots.
Then I got to Vietnam, and we would ride a bus from like Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base to Long Binh Replacement Station, and the civilians threw stuff at the bus. And I thought, where the hell can we go? Everybody hates us. Everybody. Right. The entire world hates the American soldier. And most of us didn't volunteer. Most of us were there because we were drafted and ordered to go.
Yeah, and you're like living up to what you were told to, you know.
Yes,
yeah, it's
right.
Your country called you.
So you had that, what they had to deal with. And the biggest adjustment for me, when you got to a combat zone, as you well know if you've been in Fallujah, when you get there, you expect there to be a Taliban guy behind every fucking wall.
Yeah.
You know, every fucking palm tree. Then there isn't, but they're there.
Right.
But and also, you know, where we operated mostly in political free fire zones. Only a couple of places were political no fire zone during the day. So if you encountered anything that wasn't you fired on it. You didn't ask questions. You fired it up.
Right.
Then you go to, like, you're in Fallujah, let's say, and here comes a car. It's got people in it. What do? You're telling them to stop. They don't stop.
Right.
You fire them up, and then all of a sudden you're on charges for murder.
Yep.
You know, these guys, no. We were lucky in that when most of the places we were, I'd say 95% of the places we were free fire zones.
Right.
So we'd light it up.
Yeah, it's very fortunate not to have, like, we knew these guys are shooting at us. They're
Yeah.
bad. You know, and then, like,
yeah. Once
but
they
there's-
start shooting, sure.
there's,
We even one time we were at the Quaviette. We were guarding the river, so they didn't steal the damn river. I guess
where are they
they
going to
were-
take it? You know, fucking
they
bastards.
were retrograding and bringing in new tracks, APCs and tanks for the South Vietnamese. So they
Right.
were using the river to get it to go from the Gulf of Tonkin to Dang Ha. So along the way, we were guarding the river bank to make sure that the North Vietnamese or Viet Cong or
Right.
whatever didn't come down and put out mines in the water and blow up stuff. I forgot what my point was. What were we
You're making sure nobody stole the river.
You're right,
and
but
then
I forgot why I was brought that up.
So,
So we took fire from one of the little villages there, and we couldn't return fire.
right.
They were shooting at us, but we can't shoot back. Literally, with our own organic weapons, we can't return fire. So we just kind of hunkered down by the river bank and got below where the river had been at high water. Just got down there, and later on, they I guess they got tired of shooting at nothing. And they went on about their bit. Yeah,
They're done. They're done.
Yeah.
I think it's we're have made me think about this. Like, we're in Fallujah, and like for us, we have to QLs is what you guys call the roads. We call them MSRs, main supply routes. One of them got blown up outside Fallujah, and we're like pouring the concrete and just nonstop. Next thing you know, mortars and rounds start flying over, and so just hunker down behind some concrete, just
Right.
light up a cigarette, start
Right.
talking
Wait
shit.
for it to stop.
You know, one of my dudes is like, SW1, this is messed up. I was like, bro. Next one that comes in, I just hope it kills us all. And he's like, dude, that's messed up. So I was like, what? If it's a concrete you've been pouring for the last 48 hours, I'm just going to kill myself anyway. And then he just started laughing,
Yeah.
and he's just like, that loosened them all up, and that's just...
So you couldn't. No one could fire a counter
No,
battery.
the Marines, like, we had some Marine security guards. They
Yeah.
were sniping them, and then also we had some other CBs for out there, and then they took care of them. They were gone, but it was just in that meantime, we're just like, oh, looks like we're not going to pour concrete for a little bit. You know,
Take a break.
get down.
That's lunch.
I remember there's another time too, where was getting shot at and stuff like that, and then we turned a Humvee into a clown car. Because it's like,
Everybody
we're just like, that's it. Just crammed into it as quick as we could so that those guys,
But they weren't armored, were they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, those ones are.
Yeah.
But it was weird, too, because, like, half of them, when we first got there, half of them weren't. And we
Right,
were doing,
I know.
we were mailing people back home
To send.
to have, because I'm from Ohio. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and then, like, and you're from Georgia.
Right.
So it's just like we understand what KC lights are
Right.
and roll bars and stuff. So I was making roll bars. I mean, I went to
Wow.
I was a steel worker already in the Navy,
Yeah.
and then like one of the first projects I did at Vanguard back in my welding school before I went in was making roll bars. So I was making roll bars
Yeah,
for these
right,
trucks.
yeah.
We're putting, that way when we're doing convoys at night, these cats can actually, some are IRs or some are
Right.
regular lights, and then
And what people don't understand is, like, you get a soldier over there or a sailor, and he's writing home, send me some steel.
KC lights.
Right.
Can you send me KC?
Send me, yeah.
I would like totally acquire things from all over. I
Man,
know there's.
At first, they didn't even have flak jackets for the guys.
Well, they weren't the right kind,
Right,
and
yeah.
then, and that's,
We never wore them because they weren't worth their shit. And in fact, when we were over there doing the USO show
Right.
tours, they gave me a flak jacket. I ain't wearing that. They go, well, they're better than the one. This is Kevlar, and I said, no, you don't understand. At that time, I said, I'm 60-something. I'm almost 60 years old.
right.
I don't want to have my leg blown off. I just want to be killed.
Yeah.
So I'm not wearing that. So
Yeah.
if they shoot me, they shoot me.
Did you ever get one of the meat tags, like tattoo of your dog tag on your side?
No, I have no tattoos. I have some scars, but I have no tattoos. But no, we didn't like our steel pots. As soon as we got off the combat base, you got rid of that.
Right.
I mean, you kept it because you
still got to turn it back in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And never wore the flak jackets.
Well, I can imagine why.
I mean, you're out there humping in the jungle, and it ain't going to stop a bullet.
No.
It's just added weight.
Well, that's like a lot of the stuff, too, is when you're trying to get a job done and you have shit in the way.
Yeah.
Like we had some of the OTVs or MTVs, depending on which year we were there, and those side sapper plates that were just totally in the way. You're trying to work. And I'm like, all right, I'm not telling anybody to take them out, and I'm not telling anybody not to be safe, but, just so we can get these damn jobs out of the way, and, like my steel shop, I felt like the barber shop of the desert, because it's like people are bringing their Humvees in like all the time, and we're just fixing them up and then getting them right back out, because they would have to fill out all this bullshit paperwork, and they have to go through some camp this, camp that. I don't know if it's OPSEC to talk about it still, so I won't. But there's like a lot of procedures to get their vehicle. But they knew if they came through mine, they'd just roll in, we'd just talk shit. Yeah, I got two steel. I'll be like, all right, hey Rivera, can you go fucking hook this dude up? And then if it needs any help, I'll do too. And then just trash talk. And 2-3 days later, you have some poor Lance Corporal walking around with a rack of ribs and, dude, hey, where's HM1? Because everybody's an HM1.
Right, yeah.
Where's O'Brien? I miss those days. It's funny too, because like as much as you bitch about it and all that other shit, when you look back, it's like some of the best times of your life, as jacked up as it can be. The people.
There are a few times I laughed. There were a few times it was okay, but it's a pretty miserable existence. I didn't like it, and the reason, back then, when a year to date from the time you accepted your commission, you were a first lieutenant. Okay. If you extended, you made captain, because there were DX and officers left and right.
Gotcha.
Some by their own men, and so they brought me in one time to go see the general, who was the commander of the brigade, for career counseling, and he said, do you want to extend indefinite? And I went, nope, no sir.
Right, you're out now.
Because I know where I'll be.
Yeah.
They'll promise me something. Oh, you'll be in Washington, D.C. You'll probably be an aide-de-camp for a guy at the Pentagon. No, I know where I'll be. My ass will be right back here in the jungle.
Right after you went through advanced
jungle
warfare school.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm done. I did it. I'm done. I'm out of here. And so I didn't know. I did not. I couldn't wait to get out of the Army, because I didn't want to be in it to begin with.
Gotcha.
I was drafted.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had anybody in my platoon that stayed in, except some of the NCOs. But we also, what we had too, some of my squad leaders, who were the best squad leaders you could have, were college grads, and they'd gone to the NCO Academy. And they were damn good, because they were smart,
right?
And they didn't want to stay in the Army, and they didn't care about all the attaboy badges and the promotions and the been there badges and all that. All they wanted to do was their job as good as they could and take care of their guys, and that's what we did.
That's what I love, and I missed that. I don't think I could have done anything else though. The Seabees, because we're just our own little.
Yeah, well, you guys were actually accomplishing something.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I accomplished a damn thing,
right.
Except staying alive. And I kept some of my guys alive, most of them anyway. And, I did the best I could. But no friggin' way I'd want to stay in it. And it was a miserable, miserable existence. Not like, again, I had it so much easier than a lot,
right.
Even in Vietnam. But you think about those guys in Korea. I think there was a thing on not long ago on the military channel called Bloody George. It was about George Company of the Marines at something Gung Ri or whatever, where they had, I mean, it was like they were frozen.
The winter over. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
That's
the
fucking
101st
nuts, man.
at Bastogne, they had no winter clothing, no winter boots, very little ammunition, hardly any food, and they held. Those guys had it tough. Me, I got leeches on me one day, and it rained, and people shot at me a couple of times.
Well, that's when I look at, like, you guys, though. I mean, you guys, and then...
Those guys, not me. I had it. I was very,
fuck
very
you
lucky.
guys. That's
Yeah.
when I look at my grandpa guy.
Yes, your grandpa is a
Dude.
badass.
Dude.
There used to be a thing on Facebook. It says, you think you were 20 years old and a badass? It
Yes.
shows a guy coming ashore at Normandy.
Yep.
This guy was a badass.
That's like, my grandpa lost a brother in Bataan, and another got shot down over Germany.
Wow.
And he was sole surviving brother. So it's just
Jeez.
like, with the exception of my dad's generation, it was just like, it was the O'Briens were always in war. I
Right.
mean, that was our thing.
That's it. Have we got a war? Get the O'Briens.
But still, yeah, pretty much. If we got liquor, get them too, because it's going to turn into a war anyway.
Well, they ain't going to fight without that.
Man, like, I got to ask, though, like, how did that change? Like, when you came to the States and they were spitting and all that other shit on you guys, like...
Well, I was very lucky because I had already encountered it before I went to Vietnam.
Okay.
The guys I felt sorry for were the guys that are over there in like 69.
Right.
Like Rocky Blyer and those guys. They went there and they had the support of the country. They might not have been in favor of the war, but they supported the soldier.
Right.
At some point, it changed because they couldn't go spit on Nixon, or they couldn't go spit on Johnson, but they could spit on, Lieutenant Clark. So those guys come home and, at best you got total totally ignored. But a lot of guys, they came home and people protesting and throwing things and spitting on them and calling them names, and they didn't, what the hell is going on? But that was quickly we figured out what was happening, and I didn't, I'm not going to say I didn't blame them. I did, but I kind of understood it.
Yeah, it's just I came back to the whole like F the war but support the troops.
Right,
that
yeah.
was kind of like the mentality, like, and no matter what president's in, just people hate him. You know what I mean? And it's just like, okay,
sure.
cool. Some hate more than others,
Right.
But
I can't impress upon you how lucky I was. I remember cleaning my weapon, sitting with my feet in the hole, facing out, cleaning my weapon. Had the towel on my lap. My weapon was field strip, broken down in the major groups. And I was cleaning, and I looked up, and the North Vietnamese soldier stepped through the wood line, looked at me, raised the AK, and it went click. So either he didn't have a round in the chamber, which is highly unlikely, because they were very well-trained, disciplined, hard-ass soldiers, or the round he had in there was a dud. So I yelled something, jumped in the hole, and he ran away. So, I mean, that's how lucky I was.
wow, man. So what happened to that cat?
The NVA guy, he ran away.
Jesus.
I mean, I said...
I didn't know if you got capped by one of your own guys. That's what I was wondering about that.
They were fucking around, heating up their sea rations or whatever, and I yelled a word and jumped in the hole, and then had to spin. And then I came up, and he was gone. So I told, so they went and looked, and he was gone. So all right. So then I spent the rest of the daylight looking for the parts of my weapon. So,
man, when did you? Like that's comedic in itself, man.
Yeah.
How did you get into comedy?
I was always a wise ass, in high school, playing football and everything. Coaches would get mad at me because I'd make comments, and then excuse me. Then in the Army, like at OCS, they would have me come up and tell a joke in front of the class.
Oh, nice.
Because I was the class clown. And then after I got out of the service, I thought about, I might want to be, try to go to Hollywood and be an actor in comedies. But my dad had been a coach, and I coached football for a while in Georgia. And I had met my lady, that's my wife, and we stayed in Macon much longer than I ever thought we would. I had no intention of ever staying there. And then we had a kid, and then finally I just decided, you know what? I put my life on the line for a year, so the rest of my life is mine.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go for what I want to do. So I moved out here and started pursuing a career in comedy.
Were you just doing mics and stuff like that, or
Yeah, open mic wherever. I was the doorman here.
Yeah.
I did my first Tonight Show on a Wednesday night in July of 1982. Thursday night, I was back working the door. How many in your party?
Right?
Yes,
That's
seat in
awesome.
the room. It's the original room. And I hated it when I had to work at the door and didn't get to do a spot.
Right.
But one good thing is, especially back then in the 80s, you'd put on 12, 15, sometimes 18 guys a night.
Right.
Well, not all the guys would show up. I'm here. I'm working the door, so I'd get the fallout.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I was doing pretty good. My wife had a job, and she'd get up in the morning, take kid to school. I'd pick him up. I'd have supper ready for her when she got off work. We'd have about an hour together, and I'd come here and work. And I actually would lock up
Right.
5 nights a week. And so that was my job. And then in May of 83, I'd done my 4th Tonight Show. And, some guy comes to it was on a Friday night, and the guy comes to the door of the original room. I said, I'm in your party. And he starts laughing. So, well, it's good. He's already in a good mood and kind of laughing. So he says, I saw you on the Tonight Show, man. And I went, oh, yeah, right, yeah. How many in your party? And he goes, really? I went, yeah, this is what I do. How many in your party? He goes, 4. I went, come on. You want to sit down close? So I took him and seated him. And he was going, I thought once you did the Tonight Show, you were big time. I went, well, guess again, pal.
Yeah, right?
So, but I got to thinking about it. And all these clubs were opening up around the country, like in Atlanta, the Punchline, and places like that. So I went to Mitzi that weekend, and I said, Mitzi, I think I've graduated. I told him you were going to. I told him Blake was done. I told him you were going to quit. I said, no, Mitzi, I'm not quitting. I've graduated. I went to 2.5 years. It's funny. I was in the Army for 2 years, 7 months, and 10 days. I worked the door here for 2 years and 8 months.
Hell yeah.
So it's about the same amount of time. And it was time for me to get out. So I got out and started working the road. I'd still work out here and everything.
Yeah, I remember doing a show with you, and then you were sick that one night. I don't know if you remember. It was a veteran show, and inadvertently, because you ended up taking off because you weren't feeling that well.
Oh yeah.
And inadvertently, that was I was supposed to headline anyway, and I didn't. I never wanted to say thank you for somebody's misfortune.
Oh yeah.
But I ended up doing almost 15 more minutes on top of my regular time.
Great.
And it was just oh my God, it's so cool. And
that's what's good about hanging around here.
yeah, and that was
the doormen. It was Harris Pete,
Harris
Pete, me, Tom Wilson, Biff from the friggin' Back to the Future thing, and Kennison. Kennison used to run Westwood. He ran the club, and I had friends who Mitzi wouldn't put on here. So I'd call up Sam. I go, hey, this guy's a good guy. He's
get him over here.
Yeah. Bring him over here.
Really? No shit.
So he was on one night, a guy named Fred Wolf. And Mitzi comes to the Westwood, and she goes, what's he doing on stage? And Sam said, hey, you put me in charge of running the place. I bring your son here, and he works the kitchen, and I teach him about comedy. I put on who I want to put on. No, you can't do it. And he goes, then I quit. She says, oh, all right. Fred ends up writing for Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cut to, God, I don't remember the year. figure, let's say 1990. I'm doing a movie called Shakes the Clown, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Right. Yeah.
Adam Sandler and I play buddies, even though I'm 20 years older than him, almost exactly. We play friends. He finds out he's got Saturday Night Live as a writer and as a feature player. And he goes, yeah, I said, of course you want to go do it. Saturday Night Live. Here, I know some people there. I called up Fred. And I said, Fred, this is Adam. He's a good kid. Don't let him get screwed over. I said, Adam, this is Fred. Fred, this is Adam. And they talked on the phone. And Adam ends up using Fred. Fred wrote Grown Ups, which is the highest grossing Sandler movie of all time.
Right.
He wrote Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, Joe Dirt. So
those are like all movies that are part of my life.
Yes.
Man. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and I don't know how many times. I mean, you can imagine 20 years of quoting shit. That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, especially Tommy Boy, because I'm from a half hour from where that movie's supposed to be based.
Yeah, right there.
It's supposed to be Sandusky, Ohio.
Sandusky, Ohio.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I don't know how many times I've been on road trips where like you're singing and then you end up crying. Like,
Right.
It's like this is just like.
I remember doing one of those shows in Iraq or wherever the fuck it was, and I started off by going "Mantan Babu Shanafi," and they all cheered. You know,
Yeah.
I was from the Water Boy. So I said, yeah, and did my little silly act. And then at the end, I said, okay, yeah, you know what, guys? It's dusty, it's dirty, it's hot, it's dangerous, it's terrible, it's horrible. But just remember this, only way you make it.
That
And they went nuts.
That's the best, man.
Yeah.
Like-
And I told Fred that. I told Fred, that, you know, because he wrote it.
Right.
Home, it's Joe Dirt. And I said, when I said home's where you make it, they went crazy.
Still to this day. I
Yeah,
mean, if
yeah.
he's still alive, right? So like,
Sure.
if you ever shoot the shit with him, tell him that's like seriously
Yeah.
still like he likes homos naked. No,
Yes,
no,
right, yes.
home is where you
Only
make
way
it.
you make it.
He okay, man. If you like homos naked, but you know, and that's like one of the ones that gets quoted like all the time,
Right.
and you know, and it's that's one thing that's weird about being a comic and then doing these kind of shows, because it's just doing this, you know,
Yeah.
because it's just like you are somebody I used to watch like all the time, and it's just like, you know, and I don't want to get all like over, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the way
Fuck
it was like every friggin' night here
Yeah.
when I first started.
Yeah.
I mean, Leno would go on, Seinfeld, Arsenio Hall, the Wayans brothers, Paul Reiser, Leno. Did I say Leno?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same again. It's fine. Leno.
Leno. It was. I mean, I sat right there at the steps and watched. I went to college. This was my
Yeah.
college. This is where I learned. You know, Jeff Altman, friggin' George Miller. You know, damn.
Yeah, they grew up.
And then
on-
Robin. Robin was always here.
Robin was the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
Absolutely. And Leno was, I mean, he always got to the funniest payoff of a premise.
that's one thing I've never had a chance to see Leno. He's one of the few comics I haven't seen live. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
he was unbelievable.
he pretty much does what the Comedy and Magic Club.
Yeah,
And that's
right,
And then was at Hermosa Beach, and then Vegas shows here and there, and that's it. And it's
Yeah.
when every once in a while I'll see a Leno vehicle, like a maintenance vehicle that
Yeah,
he's doing
right,
maintenance
yeah,
on another
yeah.
one of his vehicles.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
got a bunch.
Like, dude, I could be his opening act or one of his welders. You know, shit, I'm great at that too.
So Harris was down here when we were doing the thing about the Comedy Store that Binder,
Mike Binder.
Mike Binder wrote,
Yeah.
produced, and directed. So Harris said, today I'm going to go over to Leno's place in Burbank and see all his cars. And I went, he goes, you want to go? And I went, you can't invite me to Leno's place. You know,
Right.
yeah, I'd like to go, but ask Leno first. I mean, I'm not going to. So he goes, yeah, Leno said sure he'd love to have you. So we went over there. We were looking at all the stuff, and I like cars about as much as guy from Georgia, but you know I'm not like Leno. I don't.
Right.
But he had a Jeep that had gone ashore at Normandy.
Get out.
Yeah. And I'm standing, and he goes, yeah, this one, hey, this is the Jeep, this is Normandy. When I got it was pretty banged up. We fixed it. But, yeah, it was in Normandy. And so him and Harris go walking off, and I'm just standing there looking at the Jeep.
Yeah, as you would.
Yeah. Thinking about what did this thing see.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking kind of about, you know, my silly experience in war and everything. And all of a sudden, there's Leno again, standing next to me. He goes, you okay? And I went, yeah, I was just, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And he just put his arm around my shoulders. Didn't say anything. Didn't thank me. Didn't say, just put his arm around my shoulders. And we kind of walked away, and then he just went on back over to Harris. And I just thought, wow, that's Leno. That's the way he is. And, you know, it was a cool moment.
Yeah, that's awesome, too. Especially something that went... There's so many things that on different bases or anything like that, you just look at it, and it's just like,
oh, yeah.
What's the kind of shit this is seen?
What is this scene?
And there's a lot won't get it. A lot of people don't understand that.
No.
But I'll stand and look at one... I mean, it sounds retarded, but
yeah.
you understand. Or where I'll just stand, I'll look at something for like maybe almost an hour.
I know.
And just dissect.
You don't even realize you've been there that long.
No, and you just dissect like the history behind, you know, and then there's just things like in the CV Museum, like those people that go before us and what we did.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just look at it, you know, because they got a really good one. And well, you live in Oxnard.
Yeah, I live in
area.
Oxnard, right.
So yeah, the one that they just put outside the base.
I'll go take a look at it.
Yeah, and then and it's crazy. There's a Texas barrier that's I lived on a camp named after a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And it's crazy because the Texas barrier at Camp Knott, it was in Iraq, so I knew this dude. And then we go on deployment, and I come back. I was from 4, I was Battalion 4, and I come back and I deploy to Iraq in Battalion 4D, and I used to just smoke cigarettes and just be like, yeah. And you can think of people's laughter, you know, or something that people would say, and it's just like. And that was just, and it's crazy. If you ever go by that one there,
I will.
You'll see that's there. And I retired when I retired from the military. I didn't do the whole uniforms. I didn't want anything military. I did it in the fucking main room, dude.
Cool.
And all I did was I had a bunch of comics come in, you know, like Eleanor Kerrigan, Tripoli.
Cool.
There's a bunch of comics. Everybody like 20 something, and then also we just talk shit at the end of it. And it was great, and I got to say some shit in front of my mom.
Great.
Had Don Barris say some things in front of my mom.
That's
too.
it, Don Barris.
But before I kicked it all off, we went up to the Wainimi, the museum up there, Wainimi, and I just sat there like I did back in the day, just without cigarettes, and I was like, man, you know. But yeah, it's
thinking about that.
It's amazing how much history that goes into like each one of those things, man. So that's awesome. Like what? How all this stuff, and then you got into movies. What was tough? Was movies tough?
No, I was lucky. You know, I started, the first movie I did was St. Elmo's Fire.
Okay.
And I played Wally, the guy who owned the bar, St. Elmo's. And, you know, I was in a few scenes, but pretty much Joel Schumacher was the director. He pretty just much said, this is your bar. This guy works for you. These guys have been coming here for 4 years. They all went to school at Georgetown, and you know them. So go to it. And I just, you know,
that's it.
Acted like it was my bar. And
did you go to any acting classes before?
Yeah, I took some acting classes when I first moved out here, but a lot of it is just instinct. Just listen and try to make it as real as possible. You know, it's you know, I never got to a point where I didn't know it was me doing it.
Right.
I mean, I'm not this person.
Yeah.
I'm pretending to be. And then, you know, most of what I've done has been comedy.
Right.
So, it's pretty much just setting the guy up or making a comment.
Yeah.
Kind of like just hanging around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I don't really do much of the acting. Of course, I'm kind of new to the whole thing. I've been doing stand-up 10 years now. You know what I mean? But it's just, now that I live here, it's just kind of like, sure, let's just go do shit. And it's just, go do this thing. And I'm like, but that's it. It's not all as many bells and insane crazy whistles as everybody likes to think it is. You know, but the cool thing is, like, you've had a lot of really cool roles and stuff like that.
I have. I've been very fortunate. And most of the roles, I would say 99% of the roles, the guy's likable.
Yeah.
So, I have never played a bad guy or a heavy.
You can get an entire Kuwait to scream for you.
Right, yeah, right. So I've been lucky in that regard, is that, like playing Sean's dad on Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
That's a whole generation of people who, I was the dad who, was trying to do right by his son and died. So they like him. They love this character. It ain't me that they love. They love that character.
But
so all I ever tried to do was do it justice, not screw it up. Just like with Slinky Dog. Jim Varney was Slinky Dog in Toy Story 1 and 2. I was Slinky in Toy Story 3 and 4. And they said, what did you do? I said, I just kind of thought of Jim, because he used to do stand-up here.
Right.
What time is it?
Yeah.
Are you cooking beans? What time is it? Why don't you make some fudge? Is Zorro on? Why don't you? What time is it? So I would kind of do that. And Jack Perdue, actually, he and I used to do it. Do dueling Varneys and just walking around the comedy store. And
it's kind of like rest in peace, Brody Stevens. Like, I mean, still to this day, you do Brody's voice. I miss that motherfucker.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yes, you got it. It's just
right.
Yeah.
So I just said, I just don't want to screw it up. I just want to do it justice.
So which ones do you think would probably be like one of your favorites, if you can actually identify a favorite?
Movie?
Yeah.
Oh, Water
character.
Sure. We had so much fun doing that.
I bet, man.
Because Adam was Adam, but he wasn't Adam.
Right.
And Adam is one of the nicest people you ever meet. He's fiercely loyal. And he's
yeah, that's what I love.
Yeah.
And I mean to cut you off when you say fiercely loyal, and I kind of rudely did. But the whole Happy Madison thing.
Yeah, all those guys.
It's almost the exact cast.
Yep.
And it's just like, that is fucking awesome.
Right.
He took all his boys, and he's all like, hey, do you got anything going on in August?
Right.
And then he just grabs them, and,
that's pretty much it.
That's awesome, man.
And so we just had so much fun. He would take us out to dinner at Morton's,
right?
The cast and crew, and he'd pick up the tab. It'd be like $12,000, and he'd pick it up. And he's just the nicest, really humble, and very self-effacing and making jokes. He'd make himself the butt of the joke and stuff. And Tim Allen's that way too.
No, cool.
And I've been so lucky that the people that I've worked with and for have just been great guys. There's only been a couple of guys that I worked with that I just didn't get along with.
And who are they?
I ain't saying.
But yeah, man, and that's the same way I hope everybody does. It's just like, fuck those people. They're not even worth remembering.
Right. No.
You know what I mean?
And my deal is if they ever cross paths again and they want me to be in a movie that they're in, they're going to have to pay me a lot of money.
Yeah, as they should.
And if they don't want to pay me a lot of money, find somebody else to do it.
Hell yeah, man. You got anything coming up?
No.
And you better pay him a lot of money.
Right. Hey, you're not a high note. No, I'm
I
doing
got
nothing.
shit.
I am doing nothing.
No, it's a cool thing though. It's just like that's what's weird about this, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's one day you don't have.
You go months without work, and then you have to start turning stuff down because you're working on something else.
Yeah, it's like when you're in a relationship. I mean, well, fortunately you've been married for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's just like when you're like in a relationship with a girl, and then it's like there's 4 or 5 other girls. You're like, oh, I got a girl now. You know what I mean? Like, but they're interested. This sucks.
Right. Yeah. Well, that never happened to me. But No, I've been lucky that eventually something comes along, but it's been. I'm also 74, going to be 74 years old, so there ain't a whole lot of roles out there for 74-year-old guys. But the one good thing is, I mean, I go up against guys that have been doing it for forever and who were matinee idols in their youth, and now they're 74. So naturally, they're going to use them instead of me. But I'm one, cheaper, and number two, usually available.
Right now,
So,
especially.
right? Yeah. It's right.
Well, then you can always go down to Port Wayne. I mean, we got all kinds of cool stuff happening on that base.
Okay.
In the 805, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, man, this has been a pleasure. I'd love to
Thank
do it
you.
again sometime
Sure,
if you'd like
sure.
to come back.
Yeah, maybe when I come back, I'll have something to talk about. What I'm doing.
Well, yeah. Well, that would be cool, too.
Yeah, that would be great.
But let me go on here real quick. I think they, just in case anything came up. But, man, there's, home is where you make it has always been like the whole, like, it's funny too because that's has been a staple like ever since I seen that movie.
I know.
And I think
that's the only scene I'm in.
What's that?
That's the only scene I'm in the whole movie.
And it's like out of everything in that movie, that's what sticks out more than fucking anything. I mean, except for that he licked the rock and he found out it was shit.
Yeah, right.
That part too. But with Sandler though, like I'm glad you said that because there are so many people, especially as a comic that you've worked with, I've worked with, and then it's so heartbreaking, I won't mention any names either,
Right.
but it's just like people adore some of these people.
I know. But they should adore Adam. They should adore him more than they do because he and Spade and Rock and all of those guys, man, and Snyder, they're just wonderful people,
Right.
And they're so nice and they're friendly and humble but they're all fiercely loyal. And a good test is like if you see some actress that works with Adam in one movie and works with him again, then she's a good person because he don't put up with no crap.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to.
No.
It's all his own.
But he's just a very giving, caring, loyal, humble person.
That's good.
Who's made $5 billion?
But it was count.
Yeah, right.
No, it was another thing too. Like, I used to work at Cedar Point, which is an amusement park in Sandusky, Ohio. Going back to Sandusky, Ohio. And that's about a half-hour drive from Fremont to Sandusky. And we would like wear out that cassette. Now the beating of a janitor, like a medium pace, all those, and that was like between that, I think Metallica and a couple others,
right?
Clutch and Faith No More. We're like those were the things that were like going in and out of that CD player or cassette player like all the time. So, but there's a lot of people say thanks for your service and all that other fun stuff.
Was
the
my idea.
Questions pretty much I hit them already, and man, once again, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for your service.
Do you have? Oh, dude, I can't believe I got paid to do that. I loved it.
I can't believe they didn't pay me enough to do what I did.
Those sons of bitches,
bastards.
Do you have any like social media or anything like that, or
not really? I don't really do. I mean,
you're not on Twitch.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Twitch, Twitter, Tweet. No, I'm not. I don't do anything.
All right, so.
Unless, somebody says, hey, Blake, you want to come do this movie? All right.
Yeah, let's go do movies with Blake. Man.
So it's been fun. It's been fun.
Fuck yeah. All right, so at Josh96 O'Brien's my Twitter, all that other fun stuff if you haven't known it. And also, for all those I followed, thanks for making me a better leader. For all those I've led, thanks for making me a better person. Keep your chin up, never let the bastards get you down. Fuck the bozos, and don't forget, Obi loves you. All in one breath. How was that?
That's great. Stay on the high ground. Keep your feet dry. Don't forget to put out your early warning devices on avenues of approach.
What he said. Bamsis. Kakoa. I don't even know if anybody's in the office over there anymore, but fuck them. All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
man.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Oh.
Owie. Oh,
I'm getting old.
Oh, brother. I get stove up just sitting. And I spend a lot of my time peeing.
That's what happens.
But then I drink a lot of water, so I guess it's okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Sure, I got to make this round good.
Oh, you did?
The least you can have.
Oh, sweet.
Thanks for doing it. I gotta pee and then we can go.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey, thank you. I don't know where Mike went, but oh wow, the people that are supposed to be attending. Thank you so much for everything.
Sure.
Lending your hobby for me for a little bit.
I said I met her right when I got home from Vietnam and she wasn't shooting at me, so I married her.
That's all it takes.
Anything important you need that's at the base. Just
Yeah.
let me know.
Okay.
Find out what's there.
Really?
When
You guys
are we
want
gonna
to
go
go?
to that museum?
No, do you guys ever want to go on with me? I mean, I'll take you around the base. I spent so much time on there.
Yeah. We'll do it.
We're,
Yeah.
we're,
I think they got my number here. I'll
yeah,
give it to you if they don't.
let's put
Oh,
this
I'm
here.
pretty sure I got it.
All right.
Here, just let me double check. I probably should hit the end button on the thing.
Yeah. They're working out my
Yeah, 'cause
number.